because for the first time in centuries, the goddess walked the earth again. The figure moved closer, her gown made of mist, her hair glimmering like liquid silver. Every step she took burned the ground to ash. Kael stood firm, shielding Arya with his body, his wolf howled inside him, ready to fight, but even he trembled beneath her power. "Why are you doing this?" Kael demanded, his voice echoing through the trees. The goddess tilted her head, a sad smile on her lips. "I gave your kind the gift of strength," she said softly. "And in return, your ancestors cursed me to the shadows. Now, I take back what's mine." Her gaze shifted to Arya, who clutched her chest as the crescent mark began to burn. Kael reached for her, but she screamed. Light bursting from her palms, the trees exploded into flame. Arya's power surged, uncontrollable. The forest roared. The ground split. And from beneath the earth, shadowed wolves began to rise. Creatures born of the curse itself. Kael's claws tore through one, then another, but for each he struck down, two more formed. He turned to Arya, her eyes glowing like molten silver. "Arya, stop. You'll destroy yourself." She shook her head, tears glinting. "I can't stop it, Kael. She's using me, through the bond." At the fortress, Lyra burst into the temple, blood on her hands from the wounded wolves who'd returned from the forest. She fell to her knees before the sacred altar, whispering desperately, "Moon goddess, if you ever loved your children, end this." But the flame in the altar turned black, and a voice, cold, amused, filled the chamber. "You cannot pray against your own fate, Luna." Lyra's breath hitched. "What do you mean? You married the alpha fated to my bloodline. And now, your heart must decide who truly deserves to live." The flame flared, and within it Lyra saw them. Kael fighting alone, surrounded by darkness, and Arya, collapsing under the goddess's power. Her hands trembled. "If I kill Arya," she whispered, "the curse dies." Her voice broke. "But so will Kael's bond, and his heart." Kael caught Arya just as she fell. Her skin was ice cold, the mark on her chest now glowing crimson. "Stay with me," he growled, but when her eyes met his, her voice wasn't her own. "Foolish alpha, love blinds you." Kael's fury erupted, his wolf breaking free in a surge of blinding silver light. The shadows shrieked and burned away in waves of power. The goddess recoiled, her form flickering. But as Kael reached for Arya, she smiled. "You cannot destroy what you are bound to," she whispered. Then she vanished into the wind. The silence that followed was worse than battle. Kael knelt beside Arya, her body still, her pulse fading. "Arya," he whispered, "don't you dare leave me again." The blood moon faded to silver. The shadows withdrew, and the world exhaled. But when Kael looked into Arya's eyes, they were no longer her own. A whisper brushed his ear, cold and familiar. "Now, my alpha, we are one." The curse wasn't broken, it had only just awakened. The rain came down in hard, icy sheets as Aurora ran through the forest, branches whipping against her arms. Every instinct screamed for her to stop, turn back, hide. But she couldn't. Not after what she'd heard. She is the Luna who was never supposed to exist. Those words echoed in her skull, looping endlessly like a curse. Back in the packhouse, voices were rising, shouts, hurried footsteps, and Aurora knew they were searching for her. Probably Kael too. But she needed answers before she faced him. She skidded to a stop beside the abandoned moonstone altar, the place where forbidden oaths were once taken. Her chest heaved as she pressed a trembling hand against the cold stone. "Why me?" she whispered to no one. The moon above flickered behind fast-moving clouds. And then a voice spoke from the shadows. "I wondered when you'd come." Aurora's blood turned to ice. She spun around. A tall woman stepped into the moonlight, silver hair cascading down her back, eyes bright like frost. She wore the mark of a rogue seer on her wrist. Aurora swallowed hard. You knew my mother." The woman smiled faintly. "I did more than know her. I hid you." Aurora stumbled back. "Hid me? From who?" The seer's expression darkened. From the Alpha King. From Kael's father. From everyone who would have killed you the moment you drew breath. Aurora's heart thrashed wildly. Why? What was so dangerous about me? The seer stepped closer, lowering her voice. Because you carry a bloodline that should have died centuries ago. A Luna born under the shadow eclipse, one powerful enough to end an Alpha, or crown him king of all. Thunder cracked overhead as if the sky itself reacted to the revelation. Aurora shook her head. No, that's impossible. Is it? The seer asked softly. Think of the bond you share with Kael. Think of the pull, the dreams, the pain. You are not just his mate. You are his destiny. And his greatest threat. Aurora felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. If Kael finds out, the seer cut her off. He already suspects. Aurora's breath caught. No, he wouldn't hide something like that from me. Wouldn't he? The seer murmured. He's an Alpha. And Alphas protect their power above all else. Nap. A branch broke behind them. Aurora spun, heart hammering. A tall figure stepped out of the tree's dark cloak, burning gold eyes. Rain dripped from his hair as he stared at her. Jaw clenched, shoulders rigid. Aurora, he said softly, but the storm in his voice made her flinch. You should have never come here. Her pulse leapt with fear, with longing, with confusion. And then she saw Ita's shadow mark glowing faintly along his forearm. The same mark the seer had. But Kael was hiding it. Aurora's breath shattered. Kael, what did you do? His expression flickered guilt, pain, something darker. Aurora, he said, stepping toward her. I can explain. The seer grabbed Aurora's wrist. Don't let him touch you. In Kael's eyes something violent flared, not anger. Fear. Aurora, he growled, voice cracking. Listen to me. But the seer whispered a single command. Run. Aurora hesitated just 1 second. And Kael moved. Aurora ran. Branches clawed at her skin, the wind slicing past her as she sprinted through the storm-dark forest. Every heartbeat thundered with one desperate thought. Kael has the shadow mark. That mark wasn't just forbidden, it was deadly. Legend said only those who made a pact with the shadow eclipse could carry it. And if Kael had it, then everything she thought she knew about him was a lie. Behind her she heard his voice, deep, raw, and breaking apart. Aurora! Stop! He didn't. The seer's grip tightened around her hand as they darted through the trees. Don't look back, the woman hissed. But Aurora did. She caught a glimpse of Kael, eyes blazing gold, rain dripping down his jaw, muscles coiled like a predator about to strike. Yet there was pain there too. A pain she felt in her own bones. The mate bond pulled at her chest so hard it hurt to breathe. Why is he marked? Aurora gasped. What did he do? The seer didn't slow. He made a choice, one that binds him to the darkness you were born to destroy. Destroy her. Well, she wasn't a weapon. She wasn't a prophecy. She was Aurora. Kael's voice slipped into her mind through the bond, rough, desperate. Please don't run from me. Her steps faltered, just for a moment, and that was all it took. A shadow flickered overhead, a blur of black wolf fur and golden eyes descending from the trees. Kael shifted mid-air, landing in front of them with a thunderous impact, mud spraying around his paws. He growled, not in rage, in agony. The seer yanked Aurora behind her. Stay back, Alpha. Kael's wolf staggered, light flickering along the shadow mark like it was burning him from inside. The storm above responded to his pain, lightning ripping across the sky. Aurora stepped forward despite the danger. Kael, what is happening to you? He shifted back, collapsing to his knees, drenched and shaking. I didn't choose this, he rasped. I did it to protect you. The seer scoffed. You're lying. Kael's head snapped up. I would die before hurting her. Aurora's heart clenched at the truth in his voice. But the seer's gaze sharpened. He didn't tell you the rest, did he? Aurora swallowed. The rest of what? The seer pointed to Kael's mark. That mark binds him to your power, life, your destiny. If you awaken your shadow eclipse gift. She turned to Aurora, eyes cold as winter. Kael will belong to you. Mind, body, soul. Forever. Aurora's breath froze. Kael flinched not because he feared the bond, but because he feared her reaction. Aurora, he whispered, I didn't want you to find out this way. Her heart stuttered. You bound yourself to me? Without telling me. Kael, why? His answer was a whisper torn from the deepest part of him. Because the prophecy said you would die without me. Silence shuddered through the clearing. Aurora stared at him, rain dripping down her lashes, her entire world tilting. The mate bond tightened hot, demanding, unbreakable. But before she could speak, a distant howl cut through the forest. Not a wolf's howl. A hunting call. The seer's face blanched. They found us. Who? Aurora asked. Kael rose to his feet, eyes turning fully golden. The Alpha King's hunters, he growled. They've come for you. Aurora's breath caught in her throat. And then the forest lit up with torch fire. Fire split through the dark forest like a serpent of light. Torches. Dozens of them. The Alpha King's hunters were not ordinary warriors, they were bred to kill, trained to track bloodlines that shouldn't exist. Bloodlines like Aurora's. Aurora's pulse hammered as shadows moved between the trees, hooded figures in black armor, glowing sigils on their chests, each one carrying a silver-forged weapon. Kael's posture shifted instantly, every muscle tense, voice low. They're not here for me, he said. They're here for her. The seer stepped in front of Aurora. We need to move. Now. But the hunters were fast fanning out, closing in, surrounding the clearing. Aurora felt the bond pull tight between her and Kael, like the universe itself was deciding something. And she could feel Kael's fear mixing with hers. Not for himself, only for her. A hunter stepped forward, lowering his hood. His eyes were a chilling silver. Hand over the girl, he commanded. By order of the Alpha King. Kael growled, the sound deep and feral. You'll touch her over my dead body. The hunter didn't blink. That can be arranged. The seer leaned toward Aurora. Do not panic. Your power reacts to fear. My what? Aurora whispered. But before she could get an answer, the hunters raised their weapons. Silver bows lit with lunar energy. Aurora's breath caught. They were aiming at her. Kael moved instantly, shifting into his massive black wolf, planting himself between her and the hunters. Lightning cracked overhead, reacting to his rage. Kael, she choked, reaching for him. Whip. An arrow shot through the air, aimed straight for Aurora's heart. Kael lunged. The arrow hit him instead. He crashed into the mud with a howl of pain. No! Aurora screamed, falling to her knees beside him. His fur was soaked with blood, the silver arrow burning into his flesh. Silver was deadly to wolves, especially to an alpha. Aurora's hands shook as she tried to pull the arrow out, but Kael growled in agony, pushing her back with his snout. His eyes gold, trembling, soft met hers. Don't touch it, he whispered through the bond. It will hurt you. Tears blurred her vision. Kael, you protected me again. Even after I ran from you. He growled weakly. I will always protect you. Behind them, torches crackled as hunters advanced. The leading hunter raised his hand. Enough. Take the girl. Aurora's chest heaved. Something inside her snapped like a thread breaking, like a dam bursting. The seer's eyes widened. Aurora, breathe. But Aurora wasn't breathing. She was burning. The air around her shimmered, thickening with dark lunar energy. The ground trembled. The torches flickered violently. Aurora, the seer shouted. Don't unleash it. But it was too late. Aurora stood, eyes glowing with a swirling eclipse of silver and shadow. When she spoke, her voice was layered hers and something ancient beneath it. You will not take him from me. The hunters froze. Even the flames bowed in her direction. Dark light rippled from her body, blasting outward in a shock wave that sent the hunters flying like leaves caught in a storm. Trees groaned. The earth cracked. The moon dimmed. Aurora collapsed to her knees, gasping, the power fading as quickly as it had come. Kael, still bleeding, crawled toward her, eyes wide with awe and terror. "You awakened," he whispered. But before Aurora could answer, a slow, cold clap echoed through the forest. A figure stepped out from the shadows. Regal, wearing a crown of obsidian thorns. Alpha King. His lips curled into a smile as his gaze locked onto Aurora. "So," he murmured, "the Eclipse Luna lives." Kael tried to stand between them, but the Alpha King raised one finger and Kael was slammed into a tree by invisible force. "Kael!" Aurora screamed. The Alpha King tilted his head, studying her like a treasure he'd been hunting his whole life. "Come, child," he said softly. "Your destiny belongs to me." Aurora's trembling stopped. Her fear hardened. She rose to her feet. And the forest seemed to hold its breath. The forest fell silent, heavy, suffocating, as if even the wind feared the man standing before Aurora. Alpha King. He looked nothing like Kael, where Kael was wild strength and steady fire. The Alpha King radiated a cold, ancient power that seeped into Aurora's bones. He smiled slowly. Not with warmth, with ownership. "Aurora," he said, tasting her name like it already belonged to him. "You've grown beautifully. Just like your mother." Aurora stiffened. Her nails dug into her palms. "You knew my mother." The Alpha King's eyes gleamed. "I chose her." Aurora's heart lurched. "Chose her." He stepped forward, his obsidian cloak sweeping the wet leaves. "Your mother was promised to me. But she ran, betrayed our pact. And she hid you, the child I was meant to claim." Aurora's blood turned to ice. "No," she whispered. "You're lying." The king laughed softly. "Lies. Child, I have been searching for you for 20 years. Behind him, Kael struggled to rise. Blood dripped from the silver wound on his shoulder. His breaths shallow. "Don't listen to him," Kael rasped. The Alpha King flicked a hand. Kael's body was slammed back into the tree hard. He choked on air. Aurora screamed, her vision blurring. "Stop!" The king's gaze slid lazily to Kael. "Still protecting her, boy. How touching. But futile. The shadow mark was the one mistake I did not expect from you." Aurora blinked. "Mistake?" Kael's voice came out cracked, barely audible. "Aurora, I took the mark to break his prophecy, to keep him from claiming you." The Alpha King sighed. "And instead, you bound yourself to her fate. How poetic." Aurora's pulse roared in her ears. "What prophecy?" The king turned to her fully, eyes gleaming with a cruel satisfaction. "That the Eclipse Luna would rise. And whichever Alpha claimed her blood first." He paused, letting the words sharpen like blades. "Would rule every pack under the moon." Aurora staggered back. Claim her blood. Her bloodline was a crown. A weapon. A throne. "And Kael," the king continued, "in his desperation, stole the power meant for me. He marked himself with the shadow eclipse, binding himself to you." Aurora looked at Kael. He met her eyes, pain and apology twisting through the mate bond. "Aurora, I did it to protect you," he whispered. "I didn't want him to use you." The Alpha King chuckled darkly. "And yet here you both stand exactly where fate wanted you." The torches behind him flared higher, reacting to his rising power. "Now, Aurora," he said softly, "you will come with me, willingly or broken. The choice is yours." Aurora felt something inside her tremble. Not fear. Resolve. She stepped forward, shoulders squared, eyes blazing like silver fire. "My mother died to keep me away from you." The king tilted his head. "And she died for nothing." Aurora took another step, voice steady even as her heartbeat raged. "You want my blood." She lifted her chin. "Come and take it." The Alpha King's smile widened, hungry, triumphant. But before he could move, the earth shook. A deep rumble rolled beneath their feet. Light swirled around Aurora. Dark lunar light, mixed with silver and shadow. The seer gasped behind her. She's awakening again. No, this is something else. Aurora's breath hitched. 'Cause she felt it too. This power wasn't the same as before. It wasn't wild. It was summoning something. Calling someone. Kael's eyes widened in terror. Aurora, don't. But the bond snapped open, flooding her with Kael's pain, fear, and love. Her power surged outward. A wolf's howl ripped through the forest, deep, furious, ancient. The trees trembled. The torches flickered out. Hunters stumbled back. And from the shadows behind the king, a massive black and silver creature stepped into the light, eyes glowing like the eclipse. The Alpha King's confident smile finally faltered. No, he breathed. That wolf is impossible. Aurora stared, breath frozen. It wasn't Kael. It wasn't a hunter. It was my mother's wolf, Aurora whispered.